Welcome to Everyday Magic, where we explore adding pops of magic to your everyday life. I'm Michele Leffler, shamanic energy alchemist and owner of Living Moon Meditation, where I help people find balance in their personal, professional, and spiritual lives. It's my honor to help you incorporate magic into your mundane life. Let's get started. Love Everyday Magic Podcast. You can support it and me and help keep it ad-free by joining me as a patron on Gumroad. I've moved from Patreon to Gumroad. For as little as $7 per month, you can help keep me going. That's at gumroad.com/livingmoonmeditation. If you're not already on my email list, be sure to sign up at livingmoonmeditation.com. All of these links are in the show notes for you. And now for our featured quote. This life is mine alone, so I have stopped asking people for directions to places they've never been. Glennon Doyle. Each year I set a word to focus on in my life for that year. You know, a word of the year. Back in 2020, I chose self-love as my word. I chose that word specifically because my coach at the time asked me if I love myself. My natural and immediate response was, well, of course I do. But then I started really thinking about it, and I realized that I didn't even know what it means to truly love yourself. Now, if I didn't know what it meant, then I obviously couldn't say that I did it. So I chose self-love for my word that year. So what exactly is self-love? That's the million-dollar question, and like any good question, the more people you ask, the more answers you will get. But I didn't want a million different answers. I wanted the answer. I can't promise you that what I have learned is the be-all and end-all to what it means to love yourself. I've had 2 more words of the year since then, but I'm still learning about self-love, and I'm sure that I will learn more going into the future. But I want to share with you a bit about what I have learned about love for oneself. There is a misconception out there that loving yourself is taking flower-laced baths or enjoying a day of indulging in yourself. That is not self-love. That is self-care, and only one minute portion of self-care. Now, there is nothing wrong with these things, and quite frankly, I think they're critical. I think self-care is critical. In actuality, self-care is one form of self-love, but it's only one part of it. There is so much more to loving yourself than caring for yourself. And one small portion of self-love is not the meaning of loving yourself. You can care for yourself in these ways and others and really have no self-love at all. In all honesty, if you never engage in self-care, then you are likely to burn out very quickly and just end up as nothing. So we engage in self-care to recharge and keep going. This is good, but this is not self-love. Another misconception about self-love is that it's a more easily acceptable form of narcissism, that loving who you are is thinking highly of yourself and viewing yourself as better than others. This is so far from the truth that it makes me laugh, but I've been told this by other people who really and truly believe it. True narcissism can never be mistaken for self-love, and many people who project themselves and are labeled narcissistic are actually saying things that they don't believe about themselves to cover up a very low self-image. But that's not necessarily narcissism either. And I'm not going to go into narcissism in this episode because that's not the subject of what I'm talking about. And so that's another story entirely. But loving yourself is not narcissistic. So in trying to define self-love, I broke it down into its 2 components, self and love. Self-love is love for self. So what does that mean? It's easy to say And it's easy to spout platitudes, but what does it mean really when we say love for self? In all honesty, that would depend on how you define love. Once you understand how you view love, then self-love is applying that to yourself. And we all define love a little differently because it's one of those words that isn't conveyed well in the English language. I'm not talking about romantic love here, although you can certainly apply that to yourself. What I'm talking about, however, is the love we have for friends and family and applying that to ourselves. How do you love your friends? What manner do you use when speaking to your friends? How do you interact with them? How do you care for them? That is love and can be applied to oneself. Think of how you react when your best friend speaks negatively to herself. Would you say those things to her? Do you stop her saying those things to herself? Take that same approach with your own self-talk. That is a basic component of self-love. When you see someone who isn't living their true, authentic passion, do you encourage them to drop the mask and live for themselves? How about yourself? Do you encourage yourself to be authentic? Self-love focuses on the thoughts and beliefs you have about yourself. Loving yourself is believing that you have value and are worthy of good things. This belief leads to actions of self-care. So back to the self-care topic. It's one part of self-love. They are related concepts, but not the same thing. One way to tell the difference is motivation. Eating well can be an act of both self-care and self-love. So ask yourself why you are doing it. Are you eating well because you know that you need to eat a balanced diet as fuel to continue about your day? That's self-care. Or are you eating well because you know that you have value and are worth the investment that it takes to spend more money and time to purchase and prepare truly healthy meals? That's self-love. I could continue on and on with examples, but I'll wrap up with this. True love for yourself is the respect that you have for yourself because you see yourself as valuable and worth the effort. It's knowing that you are a marvelous human being who is worth so much more than what you can give yourself, but giving yourself those things that you can. Narcissism has no place in truly loving yourself because it is not respectful in any way. Loving yourself is not about spending money on fancy spa days, although that can be a part of it. It's about respect, pure and simple. Self-love is respect for yourself and honoring what you need because you are worth it. If you are interested in going more in depth on this topic, or any topic really, you'll want to consider joining me in Living Moon Mystery School. It's my membership where we go in depth with my teachings, gather together for ritual, and all kinds of witchy good stuff. You can find it at livingmoonmeditation.gumroad.com/L/mystery school. And I do have the link in the show notes for you. And now for the Astro Forecast. On February 8th, the moon will be in the first quarter at 8:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also on February 8th, Ceres enters Gemini at 9:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. February 11th, Jupiter is semi-sextile Chiron at 10:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. February 14th, Pallas enters Aries at 12:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also on February 14th, Pluto will be trine the true node at 4:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also on February 14th, Mercury enters Aquarius at 4:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. February 16th, we will have a full moon in Leo at 11:56 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. February 17th, Jupiter is sextile Uranus at 7:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on February the 18th, the Sun enters Pisces at 11:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our featured book this week is a nonfiction book by Poppy Palin. It's called Craft of the Wild Witch, Green Spirituality and Natural Enchantment. This is a wonderful book for anyone who is exploring magic or witchcraft of any kind. If you are a beginner, this would be a good book for you. If you are into the practice and have been practicing your craft for a while, this is a good read for you as well. It is good for anyone on any level, really. It doesn't assume you know anything, but it also doesn't assume that you don't know things as well. The synopsis says, Wild witchcraft is a magical, free-spirited philosophy that embraces nature. It resonates with those who yearn to express their inherent spirituality in a joyous, meaningful manner, who sense their wild heart and soul nature, who know there is beauty, magic, and meaning in the world if only we want to find it. It is a magical path for those with poetry in their souls. Evocative and compelling, Craft of the Wild Witch reveals how to practice a form of witchcraft that is both wild and free. Within these pages, you will discover the wild witch's way of seeing and knowing, how to discern one's suitability for the wild witch's path, and the fundamental themes of green spirituality. Also covered in this guidebook, rituals, chants, path workings and seasonal prayers, tree meditations, spell weaving and trance work, the fae and other worldly companions, herbs as helpers, other life memories, sacred intent, and safe practice. Now, this book is all words and no pictures, but it has a lot of information in it. If you are a visual learner, however, and you love a lot of imagery, you'll want to keep that in mind as it may not be the best book for you. It is a primer for anyone who is into solitary witchcraft. If your magic is part of an organized religion, you can still find useful information. I did. It's just written for the solitary practitioner. So that is Craft of the Wild Witch, Green Spirituality and Natural Enchantment by Poppy Palin. Love Everday Magic Podcast? I'd love to have you give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Want more magic with me? Join my free Facebook community, Bad Witch Society. It's the perfect place for anyone who's ever been told their brand of magic or witchcraft isn't right. Your magic is valid. Let's celebrate it together. You can find it at facebook.com/groups/badwitch, all one word. I have the link in the show notes for you. And if you're into Jewish magic, give my other podcast a listen. You can find Jewish Magic Podcast on the same platforms as this one. And now for the witchy news. The Irish government has recently announced that Brigid's Day will be introduced as a new bank holiday in 2023. The original idea was to establish a holiday in commemoration for frontline workers and all they have done for Ireland over the past 2 years. Brigid's Day will be commemorated on the first Monday of February and is the first bank holiday in Ireland to honor a woman. The day commemorates Saint Bridget of Kildare and the Celtic goddess Brigid, both having the same name. In other news, Catalonia is the latest government to announce a pardon of hundreds of women executed for witchcraft in the past. Some government officials have said that witchcraft trials were acts of misogynistic persecution and have called for several streets in Spain to be renamed for the pardoned victims. You can read both of these articles by visiting the links in the show notes. Do you have a witchy question you're itching to have an answer to? Send me an email and I may answer it in an upcoming episode. It might also become the topic of an upcoming episode. You can send questions to me at hello@livingmoonmeditation.com. I have the link in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Everyday Magic. It's truly been my pleasure to talk to you today. If you liked this episode or you think it will be useful for someone else, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast app. If you've got any questions, send me a DM on Instagram at Living Moon Meditation. Remember, It's all about real magic for your real life. See you next time.